Hey, welcome to Midweek Conversations. I'm Dennis.
I'm Angelica.
And Angelica is a part of our River Hills staff,
Yes.
and I'm part of that staff as well. So we get to have these conversations on a weekly basis, just kind of catching up on some things in the life of the church, but also looking back on some content from this Sunday's message, whomever might be delivering that message.
Definitely.
So
let's jump in, I guess, right?
let's jump in.
Sorry if my voice sounds a little funky. I just have seasonal allergies. It's nothing crazy. But I know I feel like if you go through the midweek conversations, you'd be like, why does she sound so weird?
Yeah, I was kind of thinking that.
Yeah.
Like you're a little bit quieter and a little bit more mellow, but then, so are we going to have you go into a coughing fit?
No, I'm going to hold it down.
And then you like,
yeah. I get the eye drops out.
I think we used to say haka loogie.
Yeah, we used to say that as kids.
Please don't. If we do, we'll have to slice the whole thing.
Now I'm thinking of like my brother doing that when I was a kid. Oh, I can hear it. Let's talk about something else.
Okay. Let's think of something else.
Let's talk about Sunday.
Yeah.
Well, I know I said this last week. I think I said this, but I do like having messages that talk more about River Hills, like as a community, and like what type of church we are, what we stand for, what our beliefs are, because I think it's really important to have transparency across the board. Like you shouldn't be hiding anything from people, And so I think it's good to realize that, River Hills is that type of church. It is that type of community. Just because we're not like super religious and we're not super what's the word where you just like stick to all of these rules and there's like no
legalistic.
Thank you.
Yeah.
We're not like that, but it doesn't mean that we're not a community of strong believers who believe in Christ Jesus and who believe in the Bible. It's so I think it's always important, and for anybody who's curious, I think if you go back and watch this past Sunday's message, I think there's so many questions that get answered. And that's another important reason why you have to have Sundays that are dedicated to that conversation.
Yeah. I refer to River Hills as this grand experiment because you're talking about being upfront about what we believe. I think you use that term. And yet in the West, that is such a propositional thing. That is, here are a list of statements that I believe. And yet in the Gospels, you don't see Jesus crafting statements for people to believe in. He's demonstrating his person and his character. And even in the one test of faith that I mentioned, which is when he asks his followers, who do people say that I am, then who do you say that I am? I mean, that's kind of a test, right?
Yeah.
But it's also very much about his character. When Peter declares, you are the Christ, in Hebrew, the Messiah, in English, Christ is Greek, Messiah is Hebrew, and in English, you are the hope of the world. So that statement in and of itself isn't so much a proposition,
right, as
it is a revelation about Jesus' character, purpose, and mission. So to me, that's what kind of makes us an experiment. We did post a 10 or 12 item statement of faith on our website, but in talking to people, I found that was a barrier to their becoming part of this community, and I'm like, boy, I don't think that's the way it's supposed to work.
Right, because it ends up feeling like, oh, what you're saying is, like, this is the syllabus, and I have to understand that this is all the work I have to complete in order to do this class.
Yeah.
Or in order to be in this church, I have to, complete all this work.
Give assent to those things.
And it's like, it's not like that.
To do that at work. And, Yeah, I mean, I wrestle with this, and I love engaging in conversation with people about this, because I really think that that's at the heart of what Christian community is to look like, and we have to make a decision.
Yeah.
As any church planter, that's someone who is starting a church, has to make a decision up front. Okay, who are we going to be?
Right.
And then even a pastor of an established church has to ask what she's going to lift up as of utmost importance, right? And so there's this tension, but I don't hear people talking about that tension. And so
I think it's because a lot of times you're just following. It's easier to just follow a model. It's easier to just, rather than have that conversation and try to explain to people why we don't have a statement of faith on our website posted with all of the 45 things, we'll just post the 45 things and, say sorry later. And it's kind of like, it's harder, right, to like flip things on its head. It's harder to like go against the grain and swim up creek. But that's that is what we're called to do. We're not supposed to, do the comfortable thing. But for centuries, it's been, church falling into all of these little sequences. And so you're like, if we just put the statement of faith out there, you don't have to think about the people that you lose, right? You don't have to think about the people who go onto your website and see it and just don't come in, because they just won't come in, and you kind of can write it off. But when you open the door and say, you don't have to be perfect first, you can just come in. Well, now you have a bunch of imperfect people, thank God, right? But you have a bunch of imperfect people who are going to come in at different stages, and that means I'm troubleshooting and I'm talking to this person, and I have to like feel out the situation, and it's a little more complicated. But that's what's more important. Like, that's what the church is. It shouldn't just be a bunch of people with like fake faces on, pretending that like, oh yes, we all believe the same thing. This is easy. This is great. You're supposed to be real people here.
Yeah. I would love to get a newspaper from Calvin's Geneva, Switzerland, where Calvin was, along with his associates, when Michael Severus was burned at the stake for disagreeing with propositions that Calvin and the quote unquote Orthodox Church. And this is such treacherous water to even tread on, or ground, I guess I should say, water to swim in, ground to tread on, but because
Jesus walks on both, though.
but the point is, isn't treating someone that you love with respect and honor, and particularly with love, what Jesus called us to do, to love our enemies, is that demonstrated by burning someone at the stake who disagrees with you theologically? To me, that's the height of the opposite of what Jesus called us to do and to be.
Yeah.
And so, I thought I silenced that. So, in any case.
No, you're so right, because it's literally like, when you break it down to like really simple parts, that statement is just like, I don't like what you're saying. You know what? You're hurting my feelings, or you make me feel like belittled. So I'm going to murder you. That's what that is. Right. You're belittling me. You're making me mad. You're influencing people. You're taking my influence away. So I'm going to assert my power and like take your life. That's crazy. That is not Christ-like. And there's no love in that at all.
And then you put that, and you look at that writ large, and you have the Crusades, right? Which is exactly what the Christian church did.
Yeah. Right.
Hey, you don't believe in what we believe, so we're going to kill you if you don't recant your faith and adopt ours. And I don't think that's what Jesus was getting at.
Nope. It also wasn't what he did. So, like, he never did that in Scripture. We've never seen him do that. So if you're professing to be a Christ follower, maybe don't start with murder. like maybe don't start on that track, you know? He never
Right.
did that. And even when he was being sent out, he followed the Holy Spirit into the desert to be tested by the devil himself, by Satan. And it seems like at that moment, when you're literally meeting your main adversary, like the person who's totally against you, Jesus going out and meeting Satan himself, it seems like at that moment, if Jesus was about that murder life, he would have done it at that moment. He'd have been like, you know what? I'm going to just vanquish you right now. Like, I'm over it. You're being really annoying. Like, you're
Right.
asking really crazy things like, oh, bow to me. And he's like, are you serious, bro? I'm going to like kill you instead. Like, he could have. At that moment, it seems like he would have, but he didn't. So that's something serious about his character that we're looking at here. And that's the Jesus that we're talking about. That's the Christ that we're following. This Jesus who did not, take up arms in that moment. You know, and it wasn't just that like he was a straight pacifist. Like he wasn't just like, oh, I'm just like peace and love, and I never get angry, and life is all love and peace. Like he also was like sweating blood and flipping tables. I mean, we just had the rebel Jesus. Mm-hmm. So like it wasn't just that he also was unaware of why anger happens. You know what I'm saying? But he didn't take his anger out in that way.
Now, if you're watching this for the first time, and maybe you saw Sunday's message as well, I acknowledge there is a huge stumbling block here, right? Mm. Because what we're not saying is that there is no such thing as truth. Mm. But it's interesting because back to 2 weeks ago with the woman at the well, she asks a truth question, what's the proper place to worship? Mm-hmm. Is it where we as Samaritans worship, or is it where you as Jews worship? She's trying to, I think, probably get away from the feelings that she had around Jesus, that this guy seems too good to be true. I don't know.
Yeah.
But she asks that question, and then Jesus concludes by saying that the Jews know better than the Samaritans. He says that, but then he says the time is coming when we will worship in spirit and truth. It's not just about truth. But he places spirit first.
I get what you're saying, yeah.
And so we're not saying that there is no truth, or that this is true for you but not true for me, and just outright relativism.
Right.
But it's, what do you lead with? Mm-hmm. And then how do you? To me, the more important question is, how do you progress with that truth when you have someone that you're in a relationship with, if you build a community around love and acceptance, when you disagree with that person, or when that person's belief is at odds with the rest of the community. Mm-hmm. And I think you do what Jesus did, and you love on them. We have disciples that we don't hear about
right.
after Jesus' resurrection.
Right.
Right? And there are people who I think exclude. Never mind. I don't even want to go there.
Well, okay.
But,
you made me think of something. It's like when this crowd of people drags this lady out, and they're like, she's in this horrible relationship, so we got to stone her. What do you say, Jesus? What should we do? And so Jesus is there, and he says, let him who's without sin cast the first stone, right? And then slowly everybody starts to walk away, starting with the older people, ending with the younger people. Mm-hmm. And in that moment, it wasn't that like Jesus said, like, all right, everybody sit down. I'm going to explain to you, why you shouldn't do this. Right. And I'm going to intellectually give you all of this set of rules. This is what you should have done instead. And, if you have a stone in your right hand, put it in your left hand and put it on the ground first, and then walk away 10 steps and then spin in a circle. And then and I'm not even trying to joke about it. Sometimes we make religion like that. We make it silly, and it's just what constantly Jesus was more about was demonstrating and showing the type of behavior and acting in the way that we could follow. So he says, whoever is without sin, cast the first stone. And that teaches more. That teaches more to those people, and they follow that, whether or not they thought at that moment Jesus was whoever he said he was. Regardless of that, they still listened in that moment, and they went. And so they're thinking about that now. They're taking that with them, and it's not overcrowded with all of these rules that you just
right.
You know what I'm saying?
So it's a characterological statement that he makes. Hey, if this is part of your character, go for it. But if this is part of your character, maybe see ya.
Right.
He didn't even make that last statement.
Yeah.
They made that assumption on their own that they should walk away.
Yeah, they were like, okay.
Right. So yeah, that's a great example.
Right.
But it is a difficult issue, and we'd love to hear your comments or questions about this. You can type that in underneath, or you can send us an email. Dennis at riverhillschurch.org, not Dennis but Dennis at riverhillschurch.org, and this is Angelica at riverhillschurch.org.
Yeah,
and,
Angelica at Riverhillschurch.
How many L's?
One L.
One L.
Angelica.
And that might trip you up because we say Angelica.
I know, and there's a few different ways to spell it. So yeah.
Good catch.
Yeah.
I wonder if I've made that mistake in the past. I got to check my.
Right. You're like, why didn't she ever respond?
I got to check my contacts.
Yeah.
See how I spell your name. But hey, this coming Sunday, I want to get this.
Oh yeah.
Before we wrap up, but this coming Sunday, we're doing something different. We're not having our two services, one at 8 and one at 9:30, but we're combining again into one service at 9. Come a little early, have some coffee, we can chat, but it's going to be Service Sunday.
Yes.
And anything to say about that?
Oh, I'm really excited. It's going to be my first Service Sunday. We're going to go out to the community and help where help is needed. It just feels so good. I think it feels good to help other people, not think about yourself, and be selfless.
Yeah,
feels good.
I was talking to a guy in the community. Actually, he came here for the first time, and I was explaining this to him, and he was getting all excited. He said, "That's so cool! I've never heard churches do that. What? And so he was super pumped about the whole idea.
Yeah.
And hey, if you know someone, or even if you have something that needs to get done and you can't do it by yourself, feel free to send either of us a message in that regard at Angelica with one L and Dennis with two N's at riverhillschurch.org, or office, if that's easier, at riverhillschurch.org, and let us know the nature of that project, and we will get back to you. But if we have a bunch of projects, we had a small group last year who couldn't get to a project because the weather kept them away from it.
Oh my goodness.
And they decided that they would follow suit on what we're doing, and they made their small group meeting at least once or twice
like a service time.
A service day rather than getting together to study.
That's awesome.
And so it was awesome. That means that the whole idea is kind of spreading throughout. It's systemic.
Yeah, exactly.
So I love that.
Here too.
So again, Service Sunday is this coming Sunday, which makes it April 21st. Yes, thank you.
Yeah.
April 21, 2024. So if you're watching after this, you can still send us projects, but it's not going to happen this Sunday, okay? Feel free to reach out to us if you do have needs along that line. But we'd love to have you join us if you're watching and you think, oh man, I could help with that.
Yeah,
and
come along.
Yeah, please do.
Yeah.
Hey, I think that's a wrap for today.
I think that's it. I think that's everything.
And we'll see you next time.
Bye.
All right, thanks a lot. Bye-bye.